Morning, my brothers and sisters. How to ruin generosity by what happens in your head. So yesterday we started with righteousness in action and in giving and trying to do it the right way. Now we are to be careful to sound no trumpet about our giving. Now, we don't do it before the church, we don't do it before the streets, that we may be praised by others. There the reward is the praise of others. But in so doing, there then remains no reward for ourselves from our Father in heaven. So first point to think about is we need to treasure the sweetness of the reward from Him. Now, something caught my eye today in the passage as I was thinking about this. It also says to sound no trumpet before yourself. So I kind of understand the puffing yourself up before the people of the church and the people of the world. But also in this passage is a warning to yourself. Listen to this. This is from Matthew chapter 6. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So yes, sound no trumpet before the world of the church and the world of the world. But also sound no trumpet before yourself. And I think that this is borne out in the passage by the care that you're supposed to be giving when you're giving to the needy. It says, when you give to the needy, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. So I think that means don't proclaim this among the highways and byways of yourself and almost compartmentalize it within yourself. So be careful how you advertise yourself, even within yourself. So put some handcuffs on the internal PR department that runs 24/7, and it's proclaiming, I'm okay. My motivations are untainted. My giving is pure. There's no way I could be giving to the needy in a way that isn't saintly. Of course I'm giving to the less fortunate in the right way, without pride, without self-aggrandizement, and without selfish incentive. So I think the scripture today cautions us even in the way we think about ourselves. So why? If we think about ourselves wrongly, we could also be thinking about God in the wrong way. So I'd speculate that the thinking of ourselves too highly is less than about a half a step away from thinking about God too lowly. So our Father sees our right acts and also our right mind motivations, or in this case, the wrong mind motivations. And His concern is way higher than our concern about this subject. And maybe it hasn't even crossed our mind, but I think the passage brings it up today. So perhaps we should be more concerned than we are about this. And we should move from, I could never be wrong about this, to, when I think about this, I probably am doing this wrong before the eyes of God. So what if we listened and heard the chastisement of the Lord Himself, which I think He's saying, be careful here. Be cautious in how you do even the good things. And don't be writing this narrative for the world or the church, but also don't be writing this narrative for yourself in thinking too highly of yourself. Romans chapter 12, verse 2 and 3 explain this well. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. Verse 3. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. So I got to be not conformed to the world here. I got to swim against the tide of this self-love movement that's so prominent in our world. I need to work of renewal of my mind, even in this area of generously giving to the needy, much less everything else. So specifically for everyone, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought. Remember who's the boss of the world and who's the boss of your life. And don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. All right, so it's kind of some conclusions here. Let's say that you're going to give something generously in a sacrificial way, perhaps money or actions or service. Be careful how you think about yourself. Your pride department is going to be tempted to start a campaign of self-adulation in the world and in the church and even in your own head. And don't fall for it. Think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. So your generosity is founded on the fact that God has been generous to you. And He's given you gifts of faith that you're now exercising in a practical way. So watch yourself all the way to the point of how you even think about yourself. Don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. Don't be congratulating with your right hand of giving with your left hand of pride. So keep treasuring the sweetness of the reward from God alone. And be careful, because thinking of ourselves too highly is just a little bit away from thinking about God too lowly. So let's pull the reins way back in our mental math of how great we are. But let the reins out in how great is the greatness of God. He's the source of faith, of changed heart towards generosity. And don't bugger this up by falling into a pride trap. And don't ruin generosity by what can happen when your personal PR department starts tooting its own trumpet. Thanks for listening.